from 1989 to 89 to 98. So, good period for Marvel movies.
Yeah. Damn hard one to research as well. There's so little material.
I just want to say we chose 89 because that's the year The Punisher came out.
Yeah. I think it's recognizably probably the first Marvel feature film.
Second.
Maybe?
Second.
No, is it second, is it? Yeah.
What was the first?
I don't... Oh, was it Howard the Duck?
Howard the Duck, 1986.
But yeah, probably best to leave that one out.
You can't really classify that one because that was a major misstep. I mean, we've got to go... Before that, you had Captain America, which was a mini serial. Then that was 1944. Then you got Howard the Duck in 86. Then 1989, Punisher, and that's the one. It's kind of funny. Like you go from 89 to 98. All you're looking at is The Punisher, Captain America, the unreleased Fantastic Four movie.
Yeah.
I'm going to call this one Nick Fury, Agent of S.H.I.E.L.D.
Yes, I put that down as well.
And Finishing in Blade, which is a good way to end this.
Yeah.
So it's kind of when you look at it now, I mean, 89, that was Batman.
Yeah.
And so you've got Punisher versus Batman. Well, it's not really a versus, because, Batman obliterated it.
Yeah.
So I mean, comic books were, for me at that time, that was the time I was getting back into like the whole comic books, but the American ones.
Yeah.
And I was at that point DC, so Marvel, it was just through, I did read the Punisher book when it came out in the UK, because you did actually do it as a comic around the same time as the film was released.
Okay.
So that was my introduction to the Punisher. So what do you think of that period then?
Yeah, it's quite a strange one, isn't it? Because, I mean, it's weird to think of a time when Marvel was, I mean, they were essentially bankrupt, weren't they, at one point? Yeah. And it's interesting that before that, back then, DC were the big guys when it came to superheroes. Superman, the movie, we've often said in many podcasts, it's the greatest origin story of all time. And that counts for superhero films as well, I think. Like, Dick Donner, like, he's the perfect guy for that. That film is just Dick Donner all over, isn't it?
Oh yeah, and of course you've got the now which we had in the early 2000s. We have the Richard Donner cut of Superman 2.
Yeah. Even
though the first one has got his prints all over it, but now the version we actually have is the definitive version of the film that they could put together.
Yeah.
Then after that, you've got like 89 with Batman. I mean,
yeah.
You did have Wonder Woman in the 70s.
Yeah.
And the Incredible Hulk. And Spider-Man. I mean, Marvel was TV. And if you look at the 89 to 98 period, you're looking at the X-Men World Cup coming on TV.
Yeah, I was going to bring that up, actually.
Yeah. And it was the starting blocks. I mean, you had the TV movies with the Incredible Hulk.
Yeah.
But in terms
Trial of the Incredible Hulk, was it?
I think it was, yeah.
The one with Thor where he's a surfer. Oh, it's so bad. It was awful. I mean, he even hands his hammer to someone. How is that even possible?
Maybe the person was worthy.
Maybe they were, yeah. Maybe they were a dude.
Yeah, I've not seen it, and it's not one.
No.
But what did you think of the Punisher then?
I mean, this is an interesting one as well, isn't it? Because I'd only ever seen it when we had a film night one night, and you said, "Oh, I've got an eccentric idea for like our film night," and I was like, "Oh yeah," and then you got the Punisher out, and I thought, yeah, I've never seen that. I've always heard about it, but I ironically never used to count him among the on-screen Punishers when I used to think of the Tom Jane one and the other god awful one. But yeah, I really enjoyed it. It's kind of like, it reminds me a bit of sort of like a Lethal Weapon vibe going on, isn't it?
I thought it was very, I mean, it was B-movie, which it's a B-movie action, and it was a product of its time, because he did have all those martial arts films. Like, I mean, I put in the same breath as something like Showdown in Little Tokyo.
Yeah, definitely, yeah.
Which is Dolph Lundgren again, and and Brandon Lee, of course, late great Brandon Lee, and it's just the straight to video in the UK action movie guy with a gun. I mean, Frank Castle doesn't even have his skull on his shirt.
No, I read something about that online about that it wasn't. Everyone thinks it was copyrighted, but it actually did have the blessing of Marvel and Stan Lee, didn't it? And he even visited the set apparently. So I think they just chose not to include it. I can't think why they wouldn't include it, but I think the director, is it Mark Goldblatt, said, it is Mark Goldblatt, said that he regretted it in later years because it obviously didn't help the marketing.
No, but they did actually on the DVD release that came out a few years ago. They actually did put the Punisher skull on the T-shirt because on the cover of the video case, the DVD case. But then again, since then you've got the Thomas Jane one, you've got the other one, Warzone, which is terrible.
Thomas Jane one's, I think he's the perfect on-screen Punisher for me still.
John Bernthal.
Yeah, it's just a shame that it kind of gets not invalidated, but because they get cancelled, you kind of think, what's the point in watching it now? You know, like not in disparaging his acting or anything like that. Just you feel like you can't get invested in. I mean, if they recast him in the MCU, I would be up for that 100%. I'm
going to go a bit off topic, but I was swearing and I don't talk to the TV screen when I'm watching TV. I'm not one of those people. But when I was watching season 2 of The Punisher, I was getting so into it more than most shows. But I was swearing and cursing, and the arc in season 2 of Punisher, the Netflix one, is superb, and it's a hard watch. But I
still haven't watched the series.
Brilliant.
I mean, his debut in the Daredevil series was fantastic enough, wasn't it? I mean, I think they kind of regretted that a little bit because season 2 was kind of like the whole season was a backdoor pilot, wasn't it? Where you were focusing more on Frank.
Definitely, it's how charismatic he is, and he plays Frank Castle, the Punisher, brilliantly. Johnny Bernthal does.
I've always liked him as a character. Anyway, I think he's like a more excessively violent Batman, isn't he? Really?
Yeah, I'm Captain America.
Yeah.
Moral code. He's ultra violent, but he's got his moral code.
Yeah.
He lives by.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, you do think Batman and Punisher in the same breath.
Yeah, and he kind of Deathstroke's a little bit kind of like the DC version of the Punisher, isn't he? Like he's like a mercenary though, so he's a bad guy, so that's a bit different. But
I remember because it came out in '89, so I'd probably seen it in '90, so I'd have been about 14 at the time. So yeah,
he broke the law.
It was video. It was on video. Who cares? It was on video. Everybody did it. Nowadays, they do all the time. Come on, Game of Thrones. You know, that stuff is all violent and you find in most films. I tell you what,
9-year-olds playing games made for 18-year-olds.
But don't these people that play that sort of thing, they think they're soldiers because of it.
Yeah, I remember when I used to play it a lot. We used to all be on the party saying like, "Oh, this makes you want to be a soldier, doesn't it?" And then you think, "Hang on a minute, I can't respawn in real life."
No. But that's the thing. I think video games and movies might be another podcast.
Yeah, possibly. Yeah.
I just want to say,
Punisher video game now.
They actually did one with the PC at the same time Thomas Jane's Punisher came out.
Yeah, there was. Yeah, that was quite good actually.
Yeah, it's one of the few video games I've actually played.
God,
I went for a phase.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, if you compare like an easy buck that they were making from Marvel were making just for the rights to something like Batman that had the backing of Warner Brothers.
Yeah.
It's no wonder, you know, because Marvel went bankrupt in '96.
Yeah, that's right, and they sold a lot of their properties off, didn't they?
Yeah.
I assume that's when the whole sold Spider-Man to Sony and X-Men to Fox. Was it happened?
Not during the bankruptcy. I think it was before the bankruptcy. I mean, that was. I just want to say, if you want to watch some good stuff, I'm going to go. This is our source materials on on YouTube, Marvel Re-Emerging from the Ruins, a DW documentary. It's from March 2020. It's on YouTube. That's all right. It goes into the details about Marvel going bankrupt.
Yeah.
How Blade saved Marvel and paved the way for the MCU.
That was a good one, yeah.
That's on Amazon Prime. On Amazon Prime again, Doomed.
Oh,
love that.
Fantastic.
And that's Doomed. That was fun. Yeah. And you know what? I'll tell you one thing I learned from Doomed is that Wes Craven was going to direct Doctor Strange.
Yes, I made a note about this, about the 3 sort of mythical films that didn't happen.
Yeah. Wesley Snipes as Black Panther.
Yeah.
And James Cameron's Amazing Spider-Man.
I remember that because that was supposed to be with Canon, wasn't it? And yeah. I think it was related to one of our recent podcasts, the failure of Superman 4 that sort of sealed the deal on that, wasn't it?
Because Canon siphoned money into Masters of the Universe.
Also, ironically, Dolph Lundgren.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, you think about it. Whereas, which I mean, I'll go into Blade a bit later, but
yeah,
Doctor Strange, Black Panther, and Amazing Spider-Man, 3 major properties, one for Sony,
yeah,
and the other 2 for Marvel. I mean, we're talking secondary characters. I mean, you look at Blade, which we will get to Blade, because I think the best way of doing this is in order of
yeah. I think that makes sense because there's so little anyway, isn't there? So
next podcast, which we're going to be doing 2000 to 2007, Marvel. It's the big one before. It's my little plug already. Captain America. Did you ever watch it?
I've seen it once, and I think the thing that made me watch it was there's if no one's seen it, he's fantastic. But there's a guy on YouTube called The Nostalgia Critic, and he does reviews of really shit films. And that's where I saw that, and I saw Ronnie Cox was in it, and I'm a big fan of Ronnie Cox. And I gave it a watch, and it's just so bad, isn't it? It doesn't even look like it was from 1990. I thought it was from the early 80s.
Latex suit with fake ears.
Oh, so bad.
He's going to a bondage party.
Yeah, I hate when they do the wing things on Captain America. In the MCU, it's perfect because it's sort of flat painted on his helmet, which looks like he looks like a soldier because they do paint things on their helmet. Whereas it just looks so stupid when they're actually like little wings sticking out, doesn't it?
But that was the time. I mean, you think about it, Batman had just scored big.
Yeah.
So
but Batman's suit is sort of utilitarian. Like he's got a utility belt with all his tools on it. I mean, how that works, I don't know. Are they all like at his back and then they spin round? But still, like at least you could say, oh well, there's his grappling hook. Like his cape he uses for flying, and his mask is to stop people knowing who he is. Like I think Captain America's outfit is a pure comic book uniform, isn't it? It's one I never thought you could get to work till the MCU sort of proved me wrong about that. I think his outfit in the Winter Soldier is perfect.
Oh yes,
I love it with the like the sort of updated star one. I love that. But yeah, I think when it comes to Captain America, it's a purely sort of it's a suit that only really works because it looks amazing in the comics. Like when it's drawn by proper professionals and that, he looks really cool. But it just looks so bad in this film, doesn't it?
Yeah, because they were still doing the whole, even though it does look like a bondage suit, and
it does, yeah.
But they were still going through the whole skin tight.
Yeah,
this is his body. This is Captain America, but he's military. Captain America was a soldier. So I like. I mean, I personally, I like the suit in First Avenger. How it's just a modified military suit. But that film, it's Marvel trying to make money and trying to play with the big boys.
Yeah.
And not having their own production house to do it, like DC Warner Brothers. DC had Warner Brothers, so they had studio, even though Warner Brothers did license Superman to the Salkins.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah,
because it was a property that no one was doing. No one was making superhero films in '78.
No, I mean, what was quite shocking for me, I mean, if you watch that Doomed documentary, is that when they were saying about, it was the Blade one, when they're talking about the fact that Marvel was getting sort of chump change back from all the profits that these films made, because even though they had like Marvel Studios, they were sort of like, I think they were they were enterprising all the work out to film studios, weren't they? So the deals were obviously that they retain zero of the profit and the studios get more of it. Whereas now, I think because Marvel Studios is the thing, it's the Iron Man thing that would make or break them, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And thankfully, it made them.
They bet their entire characters that they basically bet the Avengers as collateral on making these films work, and they took someone who was pretty much unhireable at the time to play the lead, and someone that's really wasn't a marquee name director.
Yeah,
and they got the profits. I mean, from Blade, which generated $131 million at the global box office, they took 25 million out of it. Sorry, 25,000 out of 25,000 out of 131.
That's crazy, isn't it? And I think it was made for like 45 million, wasn't it? So that's quite a good profit for a C-list Marvel character.
They made no money from Spider-Man, if I'm right. Because it was sold.
Yeah.
And
X-Men was Fox, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was X-Men. Sorry, I rephrase that. It was not Spider-Man. It was X-Men was a flat fee.
Yeah,
so they made no money from X-Men.
And then I think Spider-Man they made like 2 million or something. Didn't they? Out of its 800 million.
60. So yeah, Spider-Man was. So I apologize for the inaccuracy earlier. 62 million from the first two Spider-Man films, which 62 million out of 3 billion.
Oh, that was it. Yeah. That's crazy, isn't it? That's like someone giving you change on the street, isn't it?
So no money from X-Men from a flat fee, but they wanted to get into the game.
Yeah.
Ultimately, get the X-Men back through the Fox deal.
Yeah, I kind of think like from X-Men onwards, when the superhero thing sort of picked up again, I think that was kind of like their portfolio, wasn't it, for what they could do with successful characters. So that by the time you do get to the MCU, you can start with someone like Iron Man, and then Iron Man is kind of an A-lister now, isn't he, because of the MCU? I mean, I knew of him, but I didn't know any of his main storylines or his characters. And now I feel like Iron Man's an integral part of that whole process now, isn't he?
He is. I completely agree. Iron Man was never really on my radar, but because it was a comic book movie, and I do comic book movies, so in 2008, going to see Iron Man was just an obvious.
Yeah.
I remember walking out of that cinema being blown away. And I'm now a card-carrying Jon Favreau fan. I love Jon Favreau.
Yeah.
And, if you stick his name on something, I will watch it. So, but making no money from X-Men, which we will go into in the next podcast. But Fantastic Four.
Yeah, this is the interesting one, isn't it?
I want, and I've always said this would be the ultimate extra. So if anyone from Disney's watching, and I like the makers of Doomed and the makers of Fantastic Four, don't believe that film's been burned, because nobody.
No, I don't.
They want to go into the vault and put it on as an extra on John Watts' Fantastic Four. And as I know that, okay, I'm going to go slightly off topic, but on Wonder Woman 1984.
Yeah.
I thought the best extra, which they never had on it, which they should have had on it, was the pilot to the Wonder Woman series, which they nearly did, because I thought because of the Mando being in both.
Yeah.
So so they should have done it. Pedro Pascal, sorry, he's the Mandalorian to us, but Pedro Pascal being in the pilot, the unaired pilot, and in Wonder Woman 1984, I thought that would be a great bit of business to shove on. So I think putting the Fantastic Four, Roger Corman's Fantastic Four, out there would be superb. I mean, it ranks as possibly my second favorite Fantastic Four film.
Well, I've never actually seen it, so I'd love a full release, to be honest, like one of these cult Blu-ray labels, like Arrow or Criterion Collection. I'd love like an extras stuffed package, with the best picture you could possibly get and a 2-hour documentary or something like that. Like, I just think they're so much more interesting, aren't they? The films that don't get, that fail. We've always said that, haven't we? Like,
Yeah.
you could watch a documentary about the worst film ever, and it's just so interesting how they make them. Because I agree with what you say. No one sets out to make a deliberately bad film.
Yeah.
And if you watch this documentary on Amazon Prime, like, everyone seems like they were really nice and they put all their time into it, and they just got screwed, didn't they? Really?
Yeah.
Even Roger Corman, to his credit, even appears on it, doesn't he? So he accepts some kind of, I think, responsibility.
It was a film that was made. I was going to say you can find it on YouTube easily.
Oh, right. I didn't know that.
I've been watching it on YouTube. And it was a film that had to be into production by a certain date.
Yeah.
So that the rights would be retained. And they did it. They did all promotions. They did trailers on. Everything was all there to make it was a real film. But it was just there so that it didn't a deal go down with Fox at the time with X-Men.
Yeah.
As that was all kicking off, they realized that the property they had is worth a little bit more, and they were going to, it took them. Was it like 2004, 2005? Fantastic Four.
Yeah, 4, I think.
Yep, Fantastic Four. 2005.
Oh, was it 2005? Oh, I thought it was earlier than that.
No, and it's all about, it was all about retaining rights and keeping, and that was because at the same time they were selling the rights to X-Men for the animated series, and they saw where they were going, and of course they had the interest with Doctor Strange, Black Panther, and Amazing Spider-Man. But it's to me, I love that film. I think it's brilliant. It's worth a watch. And Doomed is a fantastic documentary. It's
really insightful, isn't it? Like, because I think we've all sort of had preconceptions about that unreleased film and think it like they say on there, like, there's loads of conspiracies that float around, and you sort of, because we were uneducated on the subject, I thought, like, I followed them all and thought, oh yeah, it's probably like a screw you job, but I had no idea it was anything to do with copyright or retaining the rights, at least.
It's everybody there are different different stories. Everybody got their own version of events on this movie, and in Doomed, the untold story of Roger Corman's Fantastic Four, everybody gets a say, and I think that's fantastic. And how it made its money through, well, it didn't make money, but it got out there through tape trading at conventions and internet. And I miss the old days of, like, is something that, now with YouTube, if you know where to find these things, it's something that it's like, oh, have you seen this? And it's kind of like
the age of the bootleg, wasn't it?
Yeah, and it was. So what I found that was interesting was Mark Ruffalo auditioned for Fantastic Four as Doctor Doom.
That I sort of thought that was kind of fateful, wasn't it? Like, imagine if you'd got that role and not the Hulk, and it's so weird how things turn out.
Or you mean what about if someone like Chris Evans played Storm instead of Steve? Oh yeah, he did.
I really like. It's a shame Captain America's sort of not dead, but gone as a character now, because it would have been so funny having a cameo from Captain America in the new Fantastic Four.
Oh, that would be fun. Oh, but you never know. Come on, Chris Evans is. I can't see him playing Cap again, but that would be pretty cool.
Or like a portrait of him on the wall or something, and then the new Johnny Storm sort of goes, "That guy's handsome," or something.
Oh. Come on. I gotta admit, that was a weird bit of casting when that came out for me. Yeah. I was like, "You're kidding me!" Johnny Storm as Captain America.
Yeah, I didn't even put it together at the time when they first said. For a split second, like, anyone living in the UK, when they hear Chris Evans, thinks of the ginger DJ.
Yeah.
But when I realised who it was, I sort of thought, oh, is he back in Marvel now? But then it's different continuities, so you can get away with it.
I sort of do my whole, since we mentioned Chris Evans, Knives Out. That's it. I said it. Knives Out. I have to always do a plug for Knives Out because I love Knives Out. So that's my plug for Knives Out. But Doomed and the Fantastic Four, check it out. It is on YouTube in full.
I will now.
It's good, and I enjoy it. It's like I said, it's better than that 2015 one. Is it 2015?
Oh, what Fan Four Stick? I think everyone calls it, don't they?
Oh
God,
it's
terrible, isn't it?
Terrible. No. It was out in. Let me have a look.
Yeah, it was 2015, I think.
Yeah, that's a bad movie.
Awful, absolutely terrible. I mean, I remember you suggested doing an in defense of, but I honestly can't think of any way to defend it.
No, I can't defend that one, and I cannot defend Punisher Warzone.
No, there's so many people I meet that think that's the better film, and I just sort of think, what? How? I don't understand how everyone doesn't see Thomas Jane as like the perfect Punisher.
Yes, prior to Johnny Bertel.
Yeah, cinematic. Sorry, but yeah. I mean, even Dolph Lundgren has more charisma than Ray Stevenson.
I just didn't like the color palette. I thought they were going too much like Sin City.
Yeah.
Or a heightened reality sort of thing.
That was the thing back then, though, wasn't it?
Yeah, it just didn't work though.
Because you had Sin City, 300, The Spirit. You know, it was all like the rage back then, wasn't it?
Didn't work though. I mean,
no.
Thomas Jane read the script and just said no.
Yeah, screw that shit.
We've got to say, did you ever watch Nick Fury, Agent of S.H.I.E.L.D.?
No, I've never seen it. I've seen bits of it, but I've heard that it's universally awful.
Thank you, YouTube. I watched it.
Oh, was it on YouTube as well?
I've watched bits of it before, but I watched it for the first time in full. When the villain is Viper it's the same character from X-Men, not X-Men Origins, the Wolverine.
Oh yeah.
What the Origins was, the second one, the Japanese story. And you've got Helicarrier and David Hasselhoff as Nick Fury, and they have LMDs, which are referenced in Life Model Decoys. They're referenced in one of the Avengers movies, The Avengers.
Yeah.
And it's terrible. It's a terrible TV movie.
It's just, I can't look at Nick Fury and think of him as a white guy anymore. Like, I don't even remember a time when he was now.
Because Samuel L. Jackson from the Ultimates comic strip, and he's Samuel L. Jackson. Come on.
Isn't it? Haven't they sort of wrote it into Marvel, like, continuity that he's just related to the white Nick Fury now? Or it's a different generation or something?
Oh, I thought it was different universe.
No, maybe it is. I mean, the Ultimates is there's all different Earths, isn't there, in Marvel continuity?
But Nick Fury is Samuel L. Jackson.
Yeah, unmistakably.
But a little bit of trivia for you, right? You've got David Hasselhoff, who is MCU because he's Zardu Hasselfrau.
Oh God, yeah. I didn't even put that together.
And if I'm right, if you go on YouTube, I'm going to double check, make sure I'm right when I'm saying this. If you go on and look up David Hasselhoff, Hooked on a Feeling, you'll find the cover of it, which was before Guardians of the Galaxy.
Yeah.
I'd advise you not to listen to it because it's terrible. I found it years ago, and it was like it's absolutely terrible. But I just found it kind of funny how things like that connected. But,
it's got to be deliberate, hasn't it? I mean, I think David Hasselhoff's one of those people you think like just connects you to the 80s, isn't it? Because of Baywatch and Knight Rider and stuff like that. And like Guardians is the perfect film for that sort of nostalgia anyway. So it just seemed natural, didn't it? And then didn't he do wasn't there a song called Guardians Inferno or something?
Guardian Inferno is by the Sneepers.
Oh, has it not got anything to do with Hasselhoff?
Yeah, he sings on it.
Yeah, I thought he did. Yeah.
He sings on it. It's from the Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2 soundtrack. And it's the end credits, which really annoyed my fiance because when the soundtrack came out after we'd watched the film, I was playing that in the car all the time. It was good. I'm sorry. I like it.
It is good, yeah.
And the music video is fantastic.
And anything Guardians related.
Brilliant. And I mean, eventually, I'd like to think we'll do a commentary track on Endgame and Infinity War, but
yeah, definitely, yeah. Well, all of them at some point.
The bit where the whole with the big at the start of Endgame, sorry, of Infinity War, and you just cut to the Guardians of the Galaxy.
Yeah, with Rubber Band Man.
Yeah, perfect. But yeah, David Hasselhoff, Agent of Shield.
Who's the villain in it? Did you say?
Viper.
Viper. Yeah, that was it. Sorry, yeah.
And Hydra.
Hail Hydra.
And what's his name? The character from not Zola, the one from the start of Civil War, the Age of Ultron, the Von Stucker.
Oh, yeah, Baron Von Strucker. Yeah.
Stucker, and and Viper's his daughter. So, but yeah, it's kind of weird to think they came out the same year as Blade.
Yeah, I 98 was it?
98.
Oh wow, was it that late?
But the best thing about them that ended up working is we got Agents of Shield linked in with the MCU. Which is brilliant. I love Agents of Shield. So,
not this one.
Oh, I love Agents of Shield. But not that one. Not the Nick Fury Agent of Shield. Here's an interesting thing about Blade I noticed, because I hadn't seen it in years, and it's not one that really actually a bit Blade. Actually, I enjoyed it more this time around than I did ages ago.
Oh, really?
And I will watch Blade 2 because I've still not watched that fully yet.
Oh, Blade 2 is great.
Although I've watched Blade Trinity. I went to cinema to watch it.
Oh, God. Yeah. That's starring Deadpool, though.
Oh, yes. Ryan Reynolds and Patton Oswalt, who's who's played the Koenigs in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. A little plug for the TV series. There are a few things I noticed about Blade, which is, he was the first African American superhero.
Yeah.
Big screen. So he predates
Black
Panther by 20 years. The female lead isn't a love interest, so she's a strong female lead.
Yeah.
Long before Captain Marvel. Yeah, long before Captain Marvel. Of course, we've already mentioned how Wesley Snipes was supposed to play Black Panther T'Challa. And Blade, which is New Line Cinema, which is owned by Warner Brothers.
Oh, is it?
Warner Brothers own it.
I didn't actually know that.
So you've got Marvel, you got Warner Brothers on distribution for a Marvel franchise. Probably wasn't Warner Brothers at the time, but it is Warner Brothers now. New Line is Warner Brothers.
Yeah, is it owned by them?
New Line Cinema, a Time Warner company.
Yeah. Oh God, yeah. So it is.
The executive producers are Avi Arad and Stan Lee. Now, Avi Arad, who's one of the creators of Toy Biz, which was Avi Arad basically turned around the fortunes of Marvel.
Yeah.
Until he sold it on for major profits. Look at this way. This is from Marvel Re-Emerging from the Ruins documentary, which I've already mentioned. In '96, it was a $4 million loss. Was bankruptcy, and in 2009, Marvel was sold to Disney for $4 billion.
Crazy, isn't it?
Yeah. Now, this is directly from the opening to Blade. It's Blade and Deacon Frost, characters created for Marvel Comics, and that's bits in small writing by Marv Wolfman and Gene Colan. A Marvel movie that doesn't like a comic to think of itself as a comic book movie, because you've got to remember this comes in '98, which is a year after Batman and Robin.
Yeah.
So this is basically a comic book movie that's setting itself out as a movie. I didn't know for years that Blade was a comic book character.
I didn't know. I had no idea.
It's a hard R 18 certificate vampire horror movie. So comic book doesn't come into play till later.
No.
And I know we've got Mahershala Ali in the MCU going to be playing him, which is brilliant. And it's the first Marvel movie with high production value.
Yeah, was it 45 million?
It's
ish.
Yeah, it's got to be. I write that down, which is kind of nuts. But yeah, I think it was. So it's Blade is the movie that set the ball in motion, because you got Blade saying that you can make money from comic book movies after Batman and Robin, which killed the franchise, which killed the genre. Slow one 2000, which is X-Men. Then you got X-Men to 2002. But a little interesting thing also that I noticed was 1998 Blade. 10 years later, Iron Man 2008. Then you got the big one in 2018 with Infinity War.
Yeah. Yeah, it's kind of the eight's the magic year, isn't it? I don't know if they deliberately do that or.
Then you got Marvel Studios in 2007 with Ghost Rider.
Yeah. It's Blade's also the sort of the lesson for studios as well, isn't it? That he's, like we said, we didn't even know he was a comic book character, so he's a C-lister at best, I would say. And they succeeded like enormously with it made like 131 million, didn't it? I think something like that.
It was 131 million, and Marvel 25k of it. But
like the idea of making that sort of profit, even in 1998, it's not a lot of money now, but against your budget of 45 million, it's quite respectable. And I think they knew that if they could do this with a C-list character that no one knows is even a comic book character, then when we do get to Spider-Man and X-Men and, you know, like we did, they were huge successes. So I think it paved the way, didn't it? Like, it definitely paved the way. I don't like to use a colourful metaphor, but I think it lubed it up.
Yeah, definitely. I completely agree with you on that one. It from the Blade, from the documentary on Amazon, how Blade saved Marvel and paved the way for the MCU. It said it was a moral victory for Marvel. It proved that money, like you said, money can be made from the characters that they still retain the rights to.
Yeah.
I mean, it's sort of like, and it also showed that what Marvel Films could do, and which became Marvel Studios. And, you know, the rest is history. And you don't think of Blade as being that important until you look back at it.
No, I mean, if you look at like the comics, he's kind of, I think he was in Tomb of Dracula.
Yeah, that was his first.
And he's got like an afro and a green coat, and he looks like a typical sort of John Shaft character. But like, you look at like the Wesley Snipes version, and like it's an iconic role for him. Like, I think of Wesley Snipes, and I think of Blade and Demolition Man. I can't help that. Simon Phoenix. But
Earth on Fire.
Yeah, but it's probably. I mean, if you ask most people who Wesley Snipes is, they'll say Blade, won't they?
Yeah, Demolition Man again, which I can link into Guardians of the Galaxy, because Sylvester Stallone.
Yes, yeah.
So, but Wesley Snipes was there first, and this is fascinating how people go on about. I mean, Chadwick Boseman, may he rest in peace. Love him, and I'm so glad that that we had Chadwick play the Black Panther.
Yeah, definitely.
But the fact that Wesley Snipes could have played him before, and we have the first African American comic book character 20 years before, and Wesley Snipes and all those involved with Blade deserve the credit for what they did, and the fact that it was an African American superhero was the Marvel's first major success is fantastic.
Yeah, it's quite unprecedented, really, isn't it? I mean, when everyone did speak about Black Panther sort of being, it's the first big sort of success in that area, I did sort of think, well, no, Blade was there first, you know. And yeah, like you say, like even the female lead, she's a Black woman as well, and she's not helpless.
No.
So you've even got the whole Wonder Woman wasn't the first strong woman thing as well. I mean, I used to take really bad umbrage to that statement.
Yeah.
But no, yeah, I think it and it is definitely like that documentary said, it's a moral victory. So they knew they had success with certain types of characters. So you use the more successful ones who have the more relatable sort of story attributes. I mean, like Blade, you can't really relate because he's a vampire hunter, but you can with Spider-Man because he's a teenager who has all these crushing things happen to him, or X-Men where you're a mutant and you don't know how to use your powers. You know, we've all felt sort of helpless in that sort of respect. Because I mean, characters like Thor and Captain America, Iron Man, like not many people are billionaire geniuses or gods of thunder, are they?
I like to think I am, but
Yeah, I the same. Yeah.
the X-Men, which we will go into in the next podcast, I read that X-Men appeals to the outsiders,
Yeah, of course it does. Yeah, I
and
think it
just
always has, hasn't it?
yeah, and it doesn't matter who you are in terms of how you define yourself, and you always find something in the X-Men. You feel an outcast, and I think that's brilliant.
Yeah.
But going back to Blade, how the female lead saves Blade like 3 times.
Yeah, she doesn't just require, a kiss and saved and all this. Like, it's quite refreshing, isn't it?
Yeah, but I mean, it's one of these things. I mean, with Mahershala Ali's Blade,
Oh, I can't wait.
that's going to be brilliant, and it'll hopefully it'll bring to the attention people who might not have seen Wesley Snipes' Blade, and it's an important movie, and the fact that that's the first success of Marvel is fantastic.
That's the one I'm looking forward to the most. Just because I think it's the most different to everything else. Like, I'm so intrigued how they're going to bring vampires into the MCU, and just like it just looks like it might maybe hopefully be R-rated like Deadpool is, or maybe more sort of mature than the general MCU fare sort of.
It's going to be interesting. The fact it's got Mahershala Ali, who was in Luke Cage. As soon as I watched Luke Cage and saw him as Cottonmouth, I just knew he was going to be huge.
And Green Book as well, fantastic in that.
Fantastic, yeah. But it's kind of like I was literally when they did the announcement of Mahershala Ali, I was like, yes.
Yeah.
I couldn't believe it because, like I said, Luke Cage. But
I think we could have a Wesley Snipes cameo, or
it would be crazy.
Chris Christopherson, or
it would be crazy if they didn't have Wesley Snipes in there somewhere.
Yeah, I mean, I was initially sort of fanboying and thinking, oh, he could be Whistler, but then I thought, no, maybe not. I mean, he could just be Blade's dad or something, couldn't he? Or
I'd like to. That Whistler would be perfect, but
yeah,
if they got him in there somewhere, it'd be a nice little bit of a torch pass.
Yeah.
But Blade was good. So
because I mean, what's happening with Mobius as well? Because that's Marvel as well, isn't it?
that's Morbius is that's got a release date.
Because it's not going to tie into Blade, is it? I take it because he's a vampire, isn't he?
That's Sony.
Oh, it's Sony, is it? All right.
That's Sony, so that's even more likely to get a Venom.
Be part of their villain verse, or as they call it.
Yeah, that's in the can. It's just waiting for its release.
Oh, okay.
2022. Jared Leto.
My favorite actor in it, isn't it?
Jared Leto. He's a good Joker in.
He was good in the Snyder Cut.
Yeah.
I liked him in that.
January 21st, 2022.
Oh, okay.
So,
because I'm assuming he was a Blade villain in the comics.
I'm not sure. I never read
know much about him, to be honest.
Biochemist Michael Morbius tries to cure himself from a rare blood disease, but he inadvertently infects himself with a form of vampirism instead. It would be a good way to tie it in to Blade if they can literally get the rights.
Yeah. Because, I mean, the only real villain is Dracula, isn't it?
Come on, they did that with Trinity.
Oh, God. The less said about that, the better.
That's one film I'd like to do a commentary track with.
Yeah, that'd be interesting, wouldn't it? Directed by the guy who wrote The Dark Knight.
Who directed it? Jeez.
Yeah, David Goyer.
And that's who Blade wouldn't talk to on set. Wesley Snipes.
Yeah, he stayed in character, didn't he, with everyone? There's a famous quote from Ryan Reynolds, isn't there? I've never met Wesley Snipes, but I've met Blade.
Yeah. And he used to talk to the director through post-it notes because he wouldn't.
Yeah, he sounded a bit douchey there, actually, didn't he?
But got too big for his own boots.
Yeah, but when they try the whole method thing and it just falls on its ass. I love when that happens. I think Jared Leto did it as well, didn't he?
Joker, yeah.
Yeah, I heard he sent. I'm assuming it's Margot Robbie because it would offend a woman more. He sent a used condom in an envelope to one of the cast members, and they really like got pissed off.
And
I think that's almost to the point where your method acting is becoming a practical joke, isn't it?
Yeah, that's a lawsuit waiting to happen now.
That is 100%. That's probably like, right, you're cut from this film now, Jared. Piss off.
Yeah. Oh. Okay, so yeah, anything else on this 1989 to 98 period? Which is your favourite of those movies?
Oh, it's got to be Blade, doesn't it?
Punisher. It's all right.
I must admit, 3 out of the 4 are actually, no, 5. I suppose we're counting Nick Fury, aren't we? 3 of them are actually decent films. I mean, Blade's good. Blades gets better each time you watch it. It doesn't seem very. The only thing that seems very 90s about it is that, you know, that weird staccato editing thing they used to do in the 90s, where it used to look like the frame rate was different.
Yeah.
To give but the people in the foreground are still moving normally. I used to hate that in the 90s. No, but Blade's great, and I've always wanted to see the Fantastic Four unreleased one, so I'm assuming that's going to probably please me. And the Punisher was good. Yeah. So it's just the other 2 were completely naff, weren't they?
But there's you can find Captain America, you can find Nick Fury, and you can find them all on YouTube. The
age we live in. It's great, isn't it?
You don't have to scour the internet or go to conventions. You can actually find Nick Fury, Captain America, and Fantastic Four on YouTube.
Can you imagine if we had YouTube years ago when video was kicking around? It'd be great, wouldn't it?
Yeah. Let's kill cinema even faster then.
Yeah, I mean, that Fantastic Four situation, that's probably the only time I'd ever condone piracy, because it's what got it out there, isn't it?
Yeah. If the only time I'll look for a film on YouTube or any streaming or any service is if I can't, because I'm afraid I'm going to get a virus. That's why I don't do the pirate way.
Yeah.
But I will look on YouTube. It's the only place I'll look. But it has to be a film that I know I can't get anywhere else.
Yeah. And there's surprisingly more than you think, isn't there?
Yeah.
Can't get anywhere else.
A good example. It's the Fantastic Four. You can't get that anywhere.
No.
And it's such a shame. I do want it to see the light of day.
Yeah, I do as well. Like a proper release.
I think we could theoretically have stopped this podcast before Blade.
Yeah.
Blade does bleed in, but I just think that 89 to 98 is a good chunk, because you've got Blade is the first film after Batman and Robin. It's a superhero film.
Yeah.
Well, DC was still licking their wounds. Marvel were literally edging their way in there.
Yeah, and they never seem to have recovered, do they, really?
No. I mean, DC had, was it 2005 was Batman Begins?
Oh, yeah, sorry, yeah. I forgot about the Dark Knight trilogy for a second there. Yeah, definitely, yeah. I mean, they sort of regained it with that, didn't they? But
then they had the missteps, which 2006 with Superman Returns, and then 2011 with Green Lantern.
Yeah.
So by 2011, the MCU was in full force.
Yeah.
So, other than the Dark Knight, in terms of what they're doing, DC they didn't really recover. They had 3 films that were acclaimed, then some good and some bad. Whereas Marvel were finding that with Blade, then we'll go more into this in with Marvel 2000 to 2007.
Yeah.
But 2008 onwards, Marvel literally hit the ground running and had created how we define a modern day superhero movie.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. I've always had an analogy in my head that Marvel and DC are kind of like, they're like a film version of the space race. You know, like the Americans got to the moon first, so Marvel got the MCU started first, but the Russians got to space first, so DC got the first superhero film off the ground that was successful.
And the definitive one, which, no offense to all the ones that come since, but the definitive origin story is
man,
perfect
3-act structure, and And we always mention this whenever we mention Superman, don't we? But we can never think of anyone who could play him apart from Christopher Reeve. And it's hard to do that with an incarnation of any character, because unless someone has done it, there's no definitive real interpretation of a character, unless it, I suppose like James Bond is the perfect expression here. For me, there is, like, Sean Connery is the definitive Bond, but he's different types of Bonds appeal to different people, don't they?
Yeah.
Whereas I've never seen a Superman where people have said, "Oh, Brandon Rhodes, yeah, he was." I mean, the guy wasn't bad; it's not his fault. But no one goes, "Oh, do you remember Superman Returns?" Do they? I mean, or they never say, I just don't think Henry Cavill's that good at it either. I think there's always something that they can't do that Christopher Reeve could do perfectly.
I always wanted someone to tell me that they loved Superman Returns.
I've never heard anyone say they love it. I've heard people say, like, there's been like a kind of reappraisal recently about, like, it's well made, it's technically quite good, it's like, it looks nice, but I've still never seen someone say, "Oh, it's my favorite Superman film."
If someone ever does say it to me, they're gonna get a direct quote from the film. Wrong.
Yeah,
I'm sorry. No, it's a terrible film.
Awful. No.
But they always, you know what they say about those sort of things. The third one is always the worst.
Oh God. Yeah.
I mean, I won't say Bryan Singer. I know he's embroiled in a lot of stuff at the moment, but he did the unforgivable in my eyes. I mean, he directed Bohemian Rhapsody, fantastic film. He directed X-Men and Days of Future Past, but he also directed Apocalypse and had one of the worst sequences, the bit where they're coming out cinema. So that's unforgivable.
It's one of those, we often say this, don't we? We try and think of moments that completely take you out of the film, and that's definitely got to be up there, hasn't it?
Yeah. So the guy who is at the forefront of our next podcast is also the one that made one of the worst movies.
Yeah. On
that note, I'd like to say your analogy of comparing the MCU and DC to the space race was absolutely perfect.
Oh, thanks.
Loved it. I really love that, and I'm probably going to steal it.
Go ahead.
Thank you. So, final words, dude.
Just quite an underwhelming phase, but interesting nonetheless, and ends with the ground zero, I suppose, isn't it?
Yeah. I would say check out Fantastic Four. That's the one, the ones that we mentioned. That's one I really recommend. And
yeah, I definitely will. And now that I know it's on YouTube, I definitely will. Yeah.
I just want to say this is the High Ground Podcast. I'm Stevie W.
And Callum.